Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the hosts of a conference designed to get us back to our constitutional roots. Their story just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I think we can all agree that we have gotten away from our constitutional roots. I think our founding fathers would not recognize the country that they've birthed. Think about it, big taxation, bloated government, a huge federal debt. That was not what this country was founded on. Two people who agree with me on that, Julia Miller and Mark Boyett. They are co-hosting the Great Exodus Conference. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
having us.
All right, let's start with you, Julia. What is the Great Exodus Conference?
You know, we are a faith-based conference that is founded on our constitutional rights, but we wanted to create a safe place for people to have a platform to be able to share how we could step into those freedoms that our founding fathers originally paid for. So we are really excited about the speakers that we have coming in November at the Westin Hotel in November 11th and 12th. And they have a lot to share with us about not just what the issue is, but really solutions, creating solutions.
Sure. Mark, I know you have studied the Constitution. Were you surprised when you went back and looked at it for the first time since 6th grade?
Oh, yeah. So much of it we've forgotten. So much of it we've never been taught. I mean, what's being taught now in our school system is socialism is good. And getting away from our constitutional values, and our founding fathers were just, abject slavery guys. They were the white patriarchy. I mean, that's what's being taught to our younger generation. And today we need to go back and read it and study it.
Sure. We're going to pull up the website. It's a beautiful conference website, and we are 22 days away, so there's still tickets to be had. And as we scroll down the website, why don't you tell us the history of this, Julia? How did you come up with this idea?
You know what? It was just a God thing. It really, truly was. We were in a situation where we had a lot of grassroots politicians that we were supporting and allowing to come in and speak to our group. We have a group, Citywide Patriots, that we wanted to educate people on the local level on what we could be doing, such as running for delegates. There was a group of us that went to Houston, and we served as delegates for the GOP, and we ran as precinct chairs and all that sort of thing. We did all of that on the kind of attacking it from the outside. And then what really ended up happening is we realized, there was more than one way to skin a cat. We needed to attack it from the inside as well. And we had a group of men that approached us and said, hey, you guys seem to be hosting a lot. Would you mind hosting us? And I thought, sure, I've been hosting for years. I'm a single adult minister. I have no problem hosting. And Mark was on board, and we thought, you know what, let's do this. And as time has evolved, we've had more and more speakers that we've come across that really do have solutions as to how we can step out of this corrupt system that we've been pulled into and step into the freedoms. So this is really for people who are freedom-loving Americans,
yes.
And they want solutions. They see, hey, something isn't quite right here, but I don't think there's anything I can do about it. Well, guess what? I have found speakers for all of these types of things. And so we're really excited to be able to present that and give those speakers a platform and put it all in one place. We even have a lot of vendors that come who have products that are like, look, this is stepping out of the system. One of our speakers is Jill Stone. She creates tinctures. Mm-hmm. And so those are our remedies. If you go back before the days of big pharma, we actually had solutions for for curing illnesses. Sure. And she has been a nurse for over 20 years, and she has tinctures that she'll talk about, and also how to be prepared for any emergency. Like if we were to go into a lockdown again, what do we do? How am I prepared? We want to know what those solutions are. So we were really excited to have her, as well as so many of the other speakers.
Sure. So Mark, let's get you involved. When you guys are planning this conference, were there topics that you wanted to tackle that were really, important?
Yeah, there is. I think, but rather than going over, specific topics, I want to go back to something in the Constitution called duty that we know very little about today. If you'll permit me, I'll take just a few minutes and share an example. One of the best examples I've ever heard of that, and it fits and it dovetails with everything that we're talking about in the conference. John Quincy Adams was the 6th president of the United States. And even before he became president, he accomplished a great deal. He was ambassador to Italy. He was a House member from Massachusetts. Just all kinds of stuff that you and I can't even dream about going to accomplish. He becomes president, gets elected for one term, and there's debate about whether that term was successful or not, but the point is he's not reelected. And then several years later, he goes back and he decides to go back to Congress. The reason he went back to Congress is because he wanted to fight against slavery. He didn't have to. I mean, he took a demotion. He went back just as a House member. He'd been president. He'd been in the most powerful office in the land. About halfway through that 17-year term, he stayed there 17 years fighting against slavery every day. In fact, he said so much about it that they censored him. They said, Adams, you can talk about anything you want to, but you can't say anything about slavery anymore. But he kept right on going. About 9 years into that, a reporter came and asked him, they said, hey, Adams, this is a pro-slavery Congress. You hadn't even made a dent. You can't even get your bills out of committee. You're banging your head against the wall. Why are you doing this? You were president. And this is what he said. He said, why don't you give up? He said, because duty is mine, but results are God's. Several years later, on the floor of the House, he had a stroke. And he actually died in the speaker's chambers. One of the young men that had carried him into the speaker's chambers was somebody he had just met, maybe 6-7 months earlier, poured his life into, poured his knowledge into, mentored him. Later, that guy ran for another position in the House, lost, wasn't reelected. He ran for a couple of other offices, lost. He ran for vice president, lost. And in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the United States. John Quincy Adams never saw the results of his work. He never even got his bills out of committee. But duty is what we define today is, I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's godly, whether I'm sick or whether I'm well, whether I'm poor or whether I'm rich, whether I win or whether I lose. And that is what we're trying to do in this conference. We're trying to get people to see and change the way they see government, the way they see themselves, and to get back to the way they see the Constitution that they weren't even taught since they were 3 years old.
Sure. Julia, I know people are frustrated, and Washington is gotten really crazy. So
it's entertaining.
How do we put the genie back in the bottle?
Oh my gosh. Again, I think it goes back to what Mark is saying. I think we bear the responsibility of educating the people that we have in front of us, because we all, for the most part, have families and we have circles of influence. And even though we may not feel like we're making a dent, we know that once one person knows about this and they go, wait a minute, I didn't know about that. Wait, there's a solution for that? Now they can take it back to their friends, their relatives, their coworkers, and hopefully the next generation. I think for Mark and I, our biggest concern is about the next generation, because a lot of times people look around and they think, well, it's not that bad. I still have my home. I still can pay my bills. But what we don't realize is that, do we really own our own homes? I mean, what if we pay off our house and we don't pay the taxes, the property taxes? What happens?
Right.
We don't really own anything.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's an eye opener when you realize it. And for me, the eye opener came when I bought my own house. As a single woman, is maybe when you're busy and you're married and you're not thinking about those things, but when you're single and you realize, okay, I have to make this much money in order to qualify for that house. Well, now I'm in this income bracket that they're taking a big chunk of my income, and I got to use what's left to pay the mortgage, but then I'm also having to pay this huge tax bill. Okay, wait a minute, wasn't I already taxed on that money? Okay, so I had this much of the pie, and they took a chunk of it, and now you want another chunk of it to pay for property taxes, and then I got to take the little bit that I have left, and I got to try to spread that over a mortgage payment, maybe a car payment, put food on the table, all that. There isn't that much left. And it really came back to that story that, as a Bible teacher, I was looking at what happened. History always repeats itself. And what happened with the Israelites when they came out of Egypt, it was just crazy because if you go right into Exodus 1, it explains exactly what happened, that the Pharaoh of the time took the place of the previous Pharaoh that Joseph had favor with, and he began taxing the people into slavery. He realized that they were going to overtake the Egyptian people just in pure numbers, and so he decided, let's put a plan in place here. Let's put a little bit of tax, a little bit more, a little bit, and he did it over a long period of time. Think about it; they were in slavery for 400 years, and what it was is that he, put a tax out there. Well, they had to put a lien on their plow, and then on their ox, and then their land, and then when there was nothing left, themselves. And that's the direction that we're headed in. And people don't realize it because you don't want to wake up one day and go, oh my God, we have nothing here. We're on this cycle that we're going to be taxed into slavery, and we're not that far off.
Absolutely.
Sadly,
Yeah.
I mean.
So we've got a couple minutes left. So I want to give you both a chance to look into the camera and tell people why they need to come to the conference. Julie, you want to start?
You know what? We would love to have as many people there as possible so that you can enjoy the excitement and the camaraderie of meeting other people that are like-minded, other freedom-loving Americans who are really serious about walking out their freedom. We have speakers that are going to talk about taxation, about the federal taxes that are being taken out of our paycheck. Some people are lawfully exempt from that, and they don't even know that. What you don't know is the thing that you're going to miss out on. I mean, you can do it, but the government is gladly going to take your money every single time. But there are people that do fall into a category more than you think that are actually exempt from that, but you have to know that. So what you don't know is what's going to hurt you. So we'll have somebody speaking about that. We'll have G. Edward Griffin, who is very well known in his own right, who will be bringing the opening message. He talks about the origination, like I said, of the Federal Reserve and how that was formed. We've got someone else who is talking about about border issues. And then one of the gentlemen is coming up from the border, and he has formed a Christian ministry where he actually goes down to the border and he finds children that have been left in the brush and, gets them to safety and gets them food and water. So we'll have an update from the border. So we've got all sorts of different things. We'll have workshops for the people that want to dive in deeper. So what we're allowing for is just so many minutes of each speaker. And then there's certain topics that people are like, I need to know more about this. Guess what? We lowered the price of general admission so that they can just go on and decide if they want to purchase a workshop and go in deeper with that particular speaker.
Outstanding. Mark, we'll give you the final word. What would you like to say to the viewer?
I don't know that I can add a whole lot to that. Again, Julia pretty much summarized it. We're going to have speakers with various topics that I think will have a call to action and a real solution for you individually, as well as what your organization can do to help further your own personal freedom, but also get back to constitutional values like we've been talking about. But it's still all about repentance, faith, and walking in your personal freedom. We're going to have topics about, how can you be lawfully tax exempt? Child sex trafficking, what's the solution to that? What's the solution to our borders? Or how can you get involved? We're also going to be talking about how you can lawfully discharge debt, regardless of where that is. We're going to have nonprofits like the Republic of Texas and how you can get involved and why you should be a member and what the call to action is there. But overall, I think, again, go back to duty. It's your duty personally to know the Constitution and to know what your rights and your freedoms are. And it's your duty to see how that fits in with the Word of God. And if you come to the conference, you're going to learn how to do that, or you're going to learn at least some of the steps to doing that. And even if you don't come to the conference, please do that on your own.
Awesome. You guys have been an amazing guests. We're going to end with the conference website, which is greatexodusconference.com. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for having us.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.